This is the ability for the executive branch to literally seize power, storm into the offices of an agency that they hate, and shut it down operationally. That's not our system of government, and that's why we're going to be fighting all night about this issue.
Democrats have been holding the floor on the U.S. Senate all day today. They started at 2:17 p.m. Eastern Time. This is a live look at the Senate floor right now, where Virginia Senator Tim Kaine is taking his term at the podium. But it has been all day. They have not given up the floor. You heard Senator Brian Schatz of Hawaii say there at the top that they're going to be fighting all night about this issue. The issue, as they're defining it, is a guy named Russell Vought, who's Trump's nominee for White House budget director. Vought is the chief proponent of the theory that Donald Trump can essentially eliminate Congress's role in the U.S. government and defund anything they say to do on his own say-so, even though that's not how the U.S. government works. Well, tonight, Democrats are using the rules of the Senate. They're using the rights of the Senate minority to take up as much time as they humanly can to slow down Vought's nomination as much as they possibly can. The other point of what they're doing here, of course, is to draw the American people's attention to just how radical this nominee is and why he should not be confirmed and why what he proposes as our new form of U.S. government would not be the democracy and the tripartite split system of government that makes us who we are. The first Democratic senator to announce he would really throw his body into the gears of the government like this was Senator Brian Schatz of Hawaii earlier this week. He said he would block all State Department nominations until Trump reversed his attack on U.S. humanitarian aid. Now tonight, right now, individual other Senate Democrats have followed that strategy. Senator Chuck Schumer is suggesting to Democrats that they should be taking that strategy broadly with all Trump nominees. And tonight, holding this Senate floor, they're really taking this strategy, which Schatz first announced, and running with it as far as they possibly can. Joining us now from the Senate is Senator Brian Schatz, Democrat of Hawaii. Senator Schatz, I appreciate you stepping off the floor and being with us. I know it's been a long day and it's going to be a long night.
Thanks, Rachel, for covering this. I appreciate it.
Let me ask how you and your colleagues are holding up and what ultimately you think will be the result of holding this floor all evening tonight.
Well, we're fine. There's going to be 37 of us talking. We will not relinquish the floor for 30 hours until the final vote on Mr. Russ Vought. And you've said it exactly right. Russ Vought is an unusual Office of Management and Budget nominee. This is a job you shouldn't know the name of the person running the OMB, but he is actually one of the authors of Project 2025, and he has a very specific view of OMB. He basically thinks the OMB director should be the king's hand and represent the president in all things throughout the government, legislative, executive branch, wherever. He was the architect of the federal funding freeze that happened last week, where Medicaid portals were shut down, where Head Start was shut down, where construction projects were shut down. And he's got a lot more ideas for the American people, and none of them are good. He also basically views laws as optional. We pass an appropriations bill, and then he thinks that he gets to just say, well, Donald Trump doesn't like it, so we're going to shutter that agency. Look, if you don't like a particular part of the federal government, there is a way to change the federal government, and it's through your elected representatives in Congress. And I don't mean to be so fussy about these kinds of things, but this is the American system of democracy. So there's two problems with Russ Vought. One is that what he proposes to do and what they have already done is illegal. And the other is that what they are doing is already harming people across the country.
The first part of that, the illegal part of that, I think is sticking in everybody's craw, because it used to be when credible people who know the law pointed out that something is illegal, it was part of a sentence in which you were saying you can't do that because it's illegal. What we're seeing over and over again in this second Trump term, particularly from ideas that sprung from the brain of people like Russ Vought, is that they are doing things that seem plainly illegal, and yet they are still doing them. I think the frustration and the exasperation of the American people on that front is that I think we all thought that the law would stop them, would sort of enjoin them from doing things that are against the law. How should we understand that tension, that lack of what's allowed them to do this stuff that feels so lawless?
Be angry, but don't give up. because what they want you to believe is that the law doesn't apply to them. Now, it's true that if they flood the zone and violate the law in multiple areas, it actually takes time for the court system to stop them. But last week, there was an injunction that was made final this week against the spending freeze. They also rejected the United States government's stupid argument about birthright citizenship. So one of the things that we need to do is not concede that this president and this president only is unconstrained by the law. He's going to try to violate the law in multiple places, but we have to not concede the point that when he writes an EO saying, for instance, I'm going to get rid of the Department of Education or the Bureau of Indian Education or the USAID Department, like, he can't do that. He may be able to do tons of damage in the meantime, but eventually most, if not all of these things will be overturned in a court of law, and they've got to follow it. It's also true, and you know this, Rachel, that the courts are tilted in Donald Trump's favor, but that's when it's a relatively close call, when there is a clear statute that they're violating. Even conservative judges and justices have batted them down. So we need to be furious, we need to be alarmed, but we need not to be despondent and act as if this person has already been installed as a monarch. We've got to fight, we've got to be vigilant, we've got to understand what happened in places like Belarus and elsewhere, and Turkey, but we cannot give up. It's way too early to give up, and one of the things that gives me the most hope over the last week is that people are starting to show up in 3 dimensions at the Treasury building, across the state of Hawaii, across the country. It's not the resistance. It's not going to be pink hats again. It's not going to be the same vibe. But there is a citizen movement now to take our country back. And once we're starting to see each other, we're starting to think, okay, it's going to take people in the legislative branch fighting. It's going to take smarter political operatives. It's going to take people in the media. It's going to take people in the civil service refusing to obey illegal orders. And it's going to take citizens everywhere supporting all of those efforts.
Well, your fury and your alarm on this led you to say that Democrats needed to be doing more than they were already doing. They needed to be taking more extreme measures. You have been pushing your own party to take the kind of steps that you're taking tonight with leading this effort in the Senate. And for that, you unfortunately are going to be cursed with lots more invitations to be on cable news. So say yes more often, Senator. We need you at times like this. Thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you.
All right. Senator Brian Schatz, Democrat of Hawaii. Again, Democrats holding the floor tonight as we speak. They're planning on doing so around the clock overnight to try to fight back as hard as they can, to try to make it as annoying as possible and as slow as possible to get Russell Vought confirmed as the budget director. This is happening right now live in the Senate in Washington, D.C. Stay with us.
Welcome to Backroom Brief. My name is Drew Pearson, where we discover into the forces shaping our society, politics, and future. The latest political battles that are shaking up America's political landscape. In today's episode, we're exploring where Rachel Maddow delves into the intense Senate debate over the nomination of Russell Vought as the White House budget director. The conversation surrounding his appointment goes beyond just one nomination. It speaks to broader concerns about executive power, legal accountability, and democratic resilience. The session centered on fears that Vought, if confirmed, could expand executive control over federal agencies in ways that undermine congressional authority. Senator Brian Schatz of Hawaii was at the forefront of the opposition, arguing that Vaught's past actions and views on executive power indicate a potential willingness to bypass legal frameworks. Why is Vaught's nomination controversial? Vought, known for his conservative policy positions, previously served as acting director of the Office of Management and Budget OMB. His tenure raised concerns among lawmakers who felt he prioritized political goals over legal constraints. Critics argue that he views laws as optional rather than mandatory, a stance that could lead to significant disruptions in federal programs and funding. A striking element of the discussion was the growing fear among federal employees regarding executive overreach. To address this, a new anonymous reporting platform was launched, allowing government workers to share concerns about political interference without risking their jobs. This move highlights a troubling reality. Many civil servants feel pressured to comply with directives that may be legally questionable. The need for anonymity underscores the widening gap between political appointees and career public servants who are tasked with upholding the law. This isn't just about Vaught's nomination. It's about the future of democratic governance in the U.S. With increasing concerns over executive overreach, grassroots activism and informed civic participation are essential to maintaining checks and balances. The debate over Russell Vaught's nomination is more than just a political battle. It's a defining moment in the struggle to maintain balance between the branches of government. The filibuster led by Democratic senators signals a strong resistance to executive overreach, but the real challenge lies in sustained civic engagement. The question remains, will the Senate confirm Vought despite these concerns, or will public pressure force a reconsideration? Only time will tell, but one thing is certain. The fight for accountability and transparency in government is far from over. Thank you for joining me today on Backroom Brief. Please like and subscribe to the show so that we can bring more insightful shows. I'm your host, Drew Pearson.